Hi friends, and welcome to another video tutorial of TIA Portal. In the comments you asked me to make a video about function and function blocks in TIA Portal. So in this video I'm going to talk about these code blocks. What are they, the differences, and how to call and use them in a project in TIA Portal. So let's get started with the basics. In TIA Portal, under Program Blocks, we always have a main block, OB1. OB1 is a code block that is processed cyclically in the program to execute the code we write there. But sometimes our code gets so large, and if we write all of the code lines and networks just inside OB1, that makes it really hard to change or troubleshoot it. So function and function blocks both are used to optimize our codes. The main use of a function and function block is to divide and organize the user program into smaller parts that can be easily understood. These parts can be reused several times, helping in better maintenance and troubleshooting. What's a function? Function is a logic block without memory. Since we have no memory, the value of the variables that we have defined inside a function cannot be saved. When a function is called and executed, at the end, all the values will be lost. Actually, functions have inputs. Do something on inputs and then give an output. They can be created by the user and called as many times as required. Next point about FCs is that since we cannot save the value for variables in a function, we cannot assign an initial value to them. The only way to save the data of a function is to use a shared data block, which we will talk about in the next video. Let's create our first function in TIA Portal. As I said, one of the reasons that we use function or function blocks is that we can reuse a block of code at different places in our program without repeating that piece of code. For example, we want to write a simple code to get two numbers, do a calculation on them, and save the result in an output when a sensor is activated. Here we get the rising edge of the sensor signal, and when the edge is detected, this calculation will be done. When we want to use this code for another two numbers, then we need to copy it and make some changes. The first method is writing all these codes in OB1. For small codes like this, it's okay, but as I said, when you have a large project with lots of codes, it's highly recommended to use FC and FBs. Let's rewrite this code with function. To add a function, open Program Blocks and double-click on Add New Block. Here you see several options. I'm going to use the function. Enter a name for the new block. Here you can choose the programming language. I will use SCL. A system mechanism of the TIA Portal does the assigning and changing of block numbers for you. Alternative to that, you can also set the function numbers manually. Click on OK. Now I've created a function, and this function you will see in Program Blocks. Inside it, I can write my code. A function and function block have a part called block interface, which contains the declaration of variables and constants that are used within the block. So you can declare these parameters. Input parameters can be read by the block, and output can only be written. In out parameters, whose values are read by the block when it's called and are written again by the block after execution. They can be assigned as input and output at the same time. Temporary data are used to store temporary intermediate results, and constants that contain a constant value. It means the value is fixed and cannot be changed inside the programming code. Temp and constant variables only exist inside of the block. Temp is only available for one path through the block. It means each time that we enter the block, at the end, they will be overwritten. The return value is the value that is returned to the calling block. Now I'm going to write this code using a function. The function will perform some mathematical operations on two numbers. So first we need two input parameters that gets these two numbers. Data type integer. As I said, in a function, we cannot define an initial or default value for a variable. The result variable gives us the result of the calculations, so it will be an output. Write the code. You see now there's a hashtag sign before the variables, which indicates these variables are declared as local variables in FC. Now our function is ready to use and we need to call it inside the OB1. Just simply drag and drop the function in the programming environment. Since functions are blocked without cyclic data storage, the value of blocked parameters cannot be saved until the next call and have to be provided with actual parameters when called. Actual parameters for the first number will be num1. The second number will be num2, and for result is result1. Actual parameters replace the formal parameters inside the function when the function is called. Do this for all code lines. Now if you want to use this function for the other two numbers, just call it again in OB1 and assign the numbers to input and outputs. That's it. Main block will execute the functions from top to bottom. It will go inside the functions and execute whatever inside is and then the next one. Download the program. I'm going to open a watch table. Write the name of the variables to monitor them. Modify a value for the numbers. And true for the sensor. The results are exactly like when we wrote this code inside OB1. Let's try with another value. In this way, we could use the function in TIA Portal to prevent writing and repeating the same codes inside OB1. Now let's assume we want to count how many times we have used each two numbers and how many times we have done a calculation with them. Let's declare a count variable as output. With each call of the function, the count will be incremented by 1. An important thing about function is that when you have called your function in OB1 and then you need to change the inputs or outputs, then the called function in OB1 will be read. If you compile the code, you see here is written block call was invalid because the interface was changed. What you need to do in this case is just right click and update the block call. Now second output is added and we can assign an actual parameter. I'm going to declare 3 variables to store count values. Now you can download your code. Modify again the numbers. Okay, the first call was successful. The count is 1. With another one, we expect the count to be 2. Let's see what happens. It's still 1. Let's see what's going on inside the FC. As you see, the variables inside the function lose their value. Each time with each call, the count value is incremented by 1 for just a cycle time, which is almost 5 milliseconds. But at the end, 0 is again overwritten. Actually, each time the count is 0, becomes 1, and then again 0. It happens in just 5 milliseconds, so we see just the value 1. But now, how we can store the value of variable count? A solution for this could be a function block. We have another block in TIA Portal to write a piece of code called function block. Function blocks are program blocks with memory. This block-like function can also be created by the user and called as many times as required. But the difference with function is that each time that we call a function block in our program, TIA will create an instance DB for this function block to save the value of its input, output, and in-out parameters. You will see under the program block an instance DB is automatically created. How we add a function block is like function. Just select here function block. Again, you select the programming language and write a name for function block. If you open the FB, you will notice there is a difference between function and function block parameters. You will see function blocks have an extra types of parameters, static, not available in functions. What are static parameters? If you use a temporary variable inside a function blocks or OB, we are using actually a part of CPU memory called local data stack. These temp tags are only available just for a single scan cycle, and when the block is executed and done, they are overwritten again. But when we declare a variable as static, we actually declare it in the work memory of the CPU. These kinds of variables are retentive memories stored in the CPU's non-volatile memory. So static data defined here keeps its value until they are overwritten and changed in our program. They can even save the data for several cycles. Instance DB contains all these parameters of the function block available at any time by any other blocks in your program. This was an advanced topic, but I needed to explain a little bit about it. Copy the code inside the function to the function block. Using function block, we can define a default value for a variable that was not possible in a function. Now we can declare the count as static. Like function, we need to call a function block inside the OB1. Once you drag a function block inside the main, a pop-up to create an instance DB will appear. Click OK to create the DB. Another difference between function and function block is that for function we must assign actual values to the formal parameters, but for function block we are allowed not to do that. If you do not assign actual parameters to the formal parameters in the call statements, TIA uses the values saved in the instance DB. These values can also be the initial values that were entered in the variable declaration table of a function block. I'm going to assign the actual values of the first two numbers. Let's create another variable for the result of function block. Download the program to PLC. Add the new variables of function block to the watch table. Modify the numbers. Okay, the results are the same and the count is 1. Let's create another pulse for edge detection. As you see now, the count value is stored and we can use the value for the next cycles. If you open the DB and click on monitor, you can see all the values here as well. Good to know that function blocks work exactly like when we use, for example, a timer or counter. When we add a timer, TIA will ask you to add also an instance DB to save the data. The next point about function blocks is calling them several times and in different places. By calling more than one instance of a function block, you can control more than one device with one function block. A function block for another two numbers can save the values by using a different set of instance data. Be careful when you need to use a function block more than once, do not copy it. If you do this, TIA will copy the function block with the same instance DB. Your program will work and you can download the code, but the data will be overwritten. Actually, instance DBs do not have to be created manually in the TIA portal and are created automatically when calling a function block. And the last difference is that when we want to edit the blocks, if you make changes in a function block, if you, for example, add a new input when you want to download the change, TIA will reinitialize the data of the function block. You see, TIA says due to change in the DB, all data values will be reinitialized. Here you see also all the values in instance DB are reinitialized. If I make the same change to a function, I make exactly the same change in this function. You see function is now read, and if you download the change, TIA says there's an error. So we need to update the function. Then we can download the change. As you see, function does not cause a reinitialization because function uses temporary memory and PLC is capable of assigning that temporary memory as soon as a download occurs. But with function block, it's not possible to retain data when you make a change unless you use an optimized data block with protection for memory download. For that purpose, go to the function block properties. Click on download without reinitialization. Here you can reserve memory, which means the next time that you make a change to anything that requires reinitialization, then 1000 bytes will be reserved to make those changes. You can activate this option for retentive tags as well. Alright, in this tutorial we learned breaking the code into function and function blocks makes the code much more simple to troubleshoot and make changes. Hope this video was helpful for you. If you have any questions about this video, function and function blocks, don't hesitate to write it in comments. See you next video, friends. Bye.